Welcome to the channel, welcome to my review of Codex Tau Empire. This codex is available for pre-order on March the 10th, 2018, available to buy March the 17th, and it's compatible with Games of Warhammer 40k 8th edition. A big thank you to Games Workshop for sending me this codex in advance so I can review it and get it out there on the airwaves a week before it is on sale. Okay, so let's dive straight in. The two most important things that everyone's been asking: is there any models in here, new models in here, and do Vespids still suck? Yeah, there are no new models in here, and Vespids still suck. I don't think anyone's really interested in the Vespid thing. They've gone down a point, but they still suck. No new models. The narrative, however, before we dive into all the rules section, the narrative is very good. I like it. It details what happens to the fourth sphere of expansion. We're now in the fifth sphere of expansion. For those of you who don't know, the Tau have been slowly growing in there from their little corner of space, and the first sphere of expansion was when the Tau launched out from their homeworld, Tau, Cept Tau. And then the second and the third sphere came. The third sphere, it's not easy to say, is the first time they hit the Imperium. They crossed the Damocles Gulf, and they met the Imperium coming the other way. Farsight Enclave set up, and then you have a lot of hoopla, and basically the Imperium turned around and decided to utterly destroy Muglath Bay in the third sphere expansion and set the stars on fire. And now the Damocles Gulf, which is all along the western frontier of the Tau, is now cut off, is on fire. There's electrostatic storms. That area of space, the gaseous clouds there, are on fire. There's no way further west for the Tau to go. To the east, of course, High Fleet Gorgon, one of the tendrils of the great Devourer, came along and nom their way through most of the star systems to the east, so there's no way to the east to go. And to the south, you've got a burgeoning Necron dynasty and lots of orcs. So they're kind of hemmed in. So what they did is they started a fourth sphere of expansion and started playing with a warp. And they set out a bunch of spaceships, gave them a null space envelope, some sort of envelope around this ship of antimatter. And just as the Cicatrix Maledictum, the Great Rift, was happening across space, time and space, they decided to detonate hundreds and hundreds of null space antimatter warp drives at the same time with predictable results, i.e. the entire fourth sphere of expansion, millions upon millions of Tau, hundreds and hundreds of assets were sucked into the warp. Well, we have been waiting for some time to find out what happened to the fourth sphere, and they're still alive. They're somewhere to the north of the Great Rift, a long way away. And the Tau, being the techno-adepts that they are, being people who are very good with technology, have found a way to contact them and have contacted them through a warp hole, and are now busily warp hole, like a wormhole in space and time. They call this wormhole the Star-Tide Nexus, which is really cool because all the Tau names like Muglath Bay, and they're all really cool names. Anyway, through the Star-Tide Nexus, through this wormhole, they've re-established connection with the fourth sphere of expansion, started the fifth sphere of expansion. Turns out the guys from the fourth sphere of expansion, having most of them getting nommed by creatures of the warp, where they resided for 1 year or 100 years, who can say. But turns out these guys are pretty fanatical. Very hardcore, and Tau like to have alien auxiliaries and human auxiliaries amongst them, such as the Vespids and the Kroots. Well, the fourth sphere don't want any of that sort of thing, and sort of purged the alien stuff and not the alien to live. Very Imperial-esque in their outlook. Long story short, the narrative in the book is good. A lot of these new 8th edition codexes are either really hit or really miss. Either they knock it out of the park, or they hit a home run, or the other way around. What am I trying to say? Sometimes they're crap, sometimes they're good. In this case, it's very good. It's laid out well, and some of the ramifications of the Kaon and Montcar campaign, which happened at the end of 7th edition, some of the ramifications are still here, still alive, and still boiling over. It's good narrative. I like it. I like a bit of narrative. Something for old players and new players alike. Right, the forces of the Tau Empire. Let's get into some of the key rules now. So there's a couple of very key rules. There's the Cept's rule, accompanying drones for the greater good, and Master of War. The Cept's rule is essentially when you pick your Tau army, you can choose to give them Cepts. This is like Space Marine chapter tactics. This is ways which they will change in battle or get improvements in battle. And it does say that Tau enclaves, the Tau of the Farsight enclaves reject ethereals. Therefore, you may not take any ethereals if you have the Farsight enclaves Cept. It also tidies up some of the rules for accompanying drones when you bring drones along. It says that drones accompany units. Tactical drones use their own datasheet, and they're considered to have a power rating of 0, and they have the same battlefield role of the unit that they accompany. So some tidying up of how drones function in your list. For the greater good is the same. Essentially, when an enemy unit declares a charge, a unit with this ability that's within 6 inches of one of the charging units may fire Overwatch as if they were targeted, but that unit cannot fire Overwatch again this turn. That's for the greater good, that's the same. And the Master of War is the same. The Master of War is once per battle at the beginning of your turn, a single commander from your army can declare either Kaon or Montcar, one or the other. And unless otherwise stated, you can only use the Master of War battle ability once per battle, irrespective of how many models in your army have this ability. It doesn't matter if you bring 6 commanders, you can only do it once. Kaon basically is, if you don't move for any reason, you re-roll all hit rolls for friendly Cept units within 6 inches of the commander. And Montcar is units within 6 inches of the commander can both advance and shoot as though they hadn't moved. For those of you with the index, these rules existed in the index, except for the Cept thing. It just tidies up some of the rules that were previously available in the datasheet. So for example, Farsight, he's got For the Greater Good and Master of War. And then you revert to the Master of War rule to see what he can do. And that's that. And then when you jump to the back of the book, you've got the Supremacy through Unity bit. And these rules apply for battle-forged armies. So if you bring a Tau army that is entirely battle-forged, you can get Warriors of the Greater Good and Cept tenants. Warriors of the Greater Good work for all troop units in battle-forged armies except drones. And basically troops get objectives secured so long as you have some troops on an objective. It doesn't matter whether you're outnumbered or not, you will score that objective. And then Cept tenants talks about every unit that is in a detachment picks the same Cept and gets benefits from the Cept in the table that is shown, except for alien auxiliaries, Kroot, Vespids, things like that. Alien auxiliaries that join a battle-forged lists don't get benefits from the Cepts, but they don't prevent you from using the Cepts. So the inclusion of Kroot or Vesper units does not prevent other units in that detachment from gaining a Cept tenant. However, the Kroot and Vespid units can never themselves benefit from a Cept. So let's have a look at these Cepts. There are 6 Tau Cept tenants, ways of waging war, ways of modifying what your units do, and the first one is the Tau Cept. These are the Ultramarines of the Tau, the orange guys, or the ones that you see on all the boxes. When a unit with this tenant uses therefore the Greater Good ability, or when they fire Overwatch whilst they're within 6 inches of a friendly Tau Cept unit, a 5 or 6 is required for a successful hit roll, irrespective of the firer's firing model's ballistic skill or any modifiers. Essentially, you Overwatch on a 5-up instead of a 6-up, irrespective of any modifiers. And when you do For the Greater Good, when you combine your Overwatch with someone else's, you're hitting on a 5-up rather than a 6-up. That's a 1/3 chance of hitting rather than a 1 in 6 chance of hitting. It's really good. In most armies, it wouldn't be that good because, let's face it, someone's got to charge for you to use it. But in a Tau army, you're often getting charged a lot because you're not getting in close combat. You're moving forward, shooting stuff, and relying on your Overwatch. So that hitting on a 5-up is very good. Then we have the we have another one, Cept, called Strike Fast. And a unit with this tenant, if a unit with this tenant advances, it treats all rapid-fire weapons it is armed with as assault weapons until the end of the turn, e.g. rapid-fire 1 is treated as an Assault 1 weapon. In addition, when you advance, you don't suffer the minus to hit. So rapid fire weapons fire twice at half range. If you're changing your rapid fire weapons to an Assault 1 weapon, you're diminishing the number of shots that you can get out there. Yes, it sounds good, particularly if you've got plasma rifles on your XV-88s jumping around and being able to move a lot quicker. Essentially, this allows you to move your foot soldiers, anything with a rapid fire weapon like plasma rifles on your XV-88s allows you to move a lot quicker and still hit on 4s rather than 5s. Most Taus hit on 4s, but you're losing a shot because it becomes an Assault 1 weapon. So I don't think that one's that great. And we have the Daleth Cept, Adaptive Camouflage. This one's quite narrative, I like it. Adaptive Camouflage. A unit with this tenant that does not Manta Strike, move, fall back, charge, pile in, or consolidate. Basically, if a unit doesn't move, it may claim the benefit of cover in the opponent's subsequent turn, even when in the open. Stand still, and you're treated as having a cover save. It's different to Shroud Psalm, for example, for the AdMech. The AdMech Shroud Psalm says you get a +1 as if you're in cover. This one, it says it's may claim the benefit of cover in the opponent's subsequent turn, even while in the open. Therefore, Iron Warriors and Imperial Fists, Bolter Drill that negates the benefit of cover. Anything that negates the benefit of cover, which there isn't much of, but there is some of, will affect this. However, standing still in the open sounds good, particularly as the Tau like to stand still and form gun lines and shoot loads of stuff. So having a +1, that gives you a +1 to your armor save when you're getting shot at. That one's good. I think it's quite good. Particularly having played an AdMech list and the benefit of having Shroud Psalm on units versus Shroud Psalm not on units, it does come into play and it will keep you guys alive a bit more. Mind you, they cannot move at all. Then we have the Saxia Cept. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm butchering all these words. Calm Discipline. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic of models with this tenant. In addition, in the shooting phase, you can re-roll a single failed hit roll when a unit with this tenant shoots. That's it. +1 leadership, re-roll 1 shot. The Borcan Cept, Superior Craftsmanship. Models with this tenant may add 6 inches to the maximum range of any rapid fire and heavy weapons they're armed with. So Tau rifles going 30-inch range, suddenly going 36-inch range. That's quite good. And then Farsight Enclaves, Devastating Counterstrike. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for models with this tenant for shooting attacks against enemy units that are within 6 inches of the firing models. So the Farsight one sounds good, but to use it you have to be within 6 inches of the enemy, which kind of sucks if you're Tau. So the best one here is probably the Tau Cept, which allows you to overwatch on a 5/6. And the Adaptive Camouflage. Don't move and get plus and gain the benefit of cover. However, there's nothing here that is truly juicy. There's nothing here, they sound good, but they don't sound great, if you get what I mean. There's nothing here that makes me go, oh, I definitely need to get a Tau army. That's really mean. And I wonder if 1 or 2 of the Cepts could be a bit more narrative. So, for example, the Tau, famed at their Monk card tactics, their hit and run tactics, or is it K-On? I don't know which. But surely there could have been one here which allows them to fall back and shoot, like the Ultramarines chapter tactics. Yes, I know all the suits can fall back and shoot because they have a fly keyword, but what about all the little gribblies on the ground? Why not give them a Cept tenant that allows them to fall back and shoot at -1 to hit? Maybe that would have been a bit narrative. Maybe that would be nice to see it in here. We know it's not broken because the Ultramarines have it. Or isn't there a Talan ability in the Imperial Guard book that allows you to outflank? Again, thinking about Kayan and Montcar, the Tau's way of waging war, because they're often outnumbered, is a way of surrounding, striking hard, striking viciously, and then falling back because they're often outnumbered. I would have liked to have seen a Cept tenant which allowed them to, say, outflank. Or something about deployment would have been nice. Maybe, that's just my thoughts. But maybe there's something beautiful that just sings in the stratagems, that just sings Tau in these stratagems. So let's have a look at them. There's 3 pages of them, so let's have a look at them. Let's look at the Cept specific ones first. So the Tau have a 3 command point one. Remember, these are the guys that Overwatch on a 5-up. 3 command points for focus fire. Use this stratagem after a Tau Cept unit from your army inflicts an unsaved wound on an enemy unit in the shooting phase. Then you can add 1 to all wound rolls for any other Tau Cept units from your army that target the same enemy unit this phase. 3 command points to add 1 to wound. It's a lot of points, but when you absolutely want to kill something dead, AK-47. Strike and Fade, the Daleth stratagem. These are the guys with adaptive camouflage that can gain the benefit of cover standing in the open. And it's 1 command point. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick a unit. That unit may shoot and then immediately move 6 inches as if it were the movement phase. They cannot advance as part of this move. Strike and Fade, 1 command point. That's quite nice. Imagine a big suit of XV8 shooting at something and then jumping up and hiding behind some terrain. Very Eldar. You've got Experimental Weaponry, which is the Bokham stratagem. These are the guys that may add 6 inches to the maximum range of their rapid fire and heavy weaponry. And when a unit from your army fires a ranged weapon that makes a random number of attacks, e.g. heavy d6 or heavy 2d6, you can re-roll one of the dice used to determine the number of attacks made. Clearly these guys, the Borkan, Cept, murdering that word, but clearly they have all the guns. Hot-blooded Virile stratagem, the ones that treat their rapid fire weapons as assault weaponry. Start a shooting phase, pick an infantry unit from your army. This unit may be chosen to shoot twice this phase, but all models in the unit must target the closest enemy unit each time they do so. It costs 2 command points, but if you've got a gun line of rapid firing, hot-blooded such and such, well, they won't be rapid firing, they'll be assault weapons now. But pick a unit, it's an infantry unit, and then they fire twice at the closest enemy unit. 2 command points, that's nice. Orbital Marker Distribution Uplink from the Saxia stratagem. And Saxia guys are the ones with +1 to their leadership, and they can re-roll a single failed hit roll. Well, for 2 command points, at the start of your shooting phase, pick an enemy unit visible to a character from your army, and that unit and all other enemy units within 6 inches of it gain a Marker Light counter. Free Marker Lights. Well, not free Marker Lights because it costs 2 command points. But yeah, pick an enemy character, give him a Marker Light, and everything next to within 6 inches of him, give him free Marker Lights. Remember, you're not rolling a hit with these Marker Lights, just dropping them down. That one's quite nice. And then 2 command points, Drop Zone Clear. This is the Farsight Enclaves guy, the guys who can reroll wound rolls of 1 when they're within 6 inches of an enemy. 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Choose a Farsight Enclaves battlesuit unit from your army that was set up on the battlefield using its Manta Strike ability, and add 1 to hit rolls for that unit this phase. 2 command points. Drop Zone Clear. When we're talking about Tau guns, anything that improves their +1 hit rolls is a good thing. Or rather, anything that improves their hit rolls by 1 is a good thing. I mean, add that in with Marker Light hits as well. You're going to clear a drop zone for 2 command points when you spend that one. So those are the Tau specific stratagems. Let's have a look at all the remaining general stratagems. And you'll be happy to know they're all very cheap. There's the Emergency Dispensation one, which is the Unlock Relics one, which is 1 command point for an extra relic or 3 command points for 2 extra relics. We know that one. And there's 1, 2, 3 that are only 2 command points. All the rest are 1 command point. So it's quite cheap, except for the 3 command point Orbital Ion Beam. 3 command points. And basically, use this stratagem in your shooting phase if a Tau Empire commander from your army did not move or use their Manta Strike ability in the preceding movement phase. You pick 2 points on the battlefield. Any 2 points. As far away as you like. 2 points on the battlefield, 2d6 inches apart. You draw an imaginary line between them, and then you bomb it. On a 4-up, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. And so that line might go through multiple units doing multiple d3 mortal wounds on a 4-up. It's an orbital bombardment. We have versions of that, flavors of that in all the other codexes. All of them are costing 3 command points. All of them are extremely random. And I've tried to pull it off a couple of times and it never works. But if you've got a lot of command points, why not burn it if you want to, particularly if you're hitting a gun line. Let's have a look at some of these other 2-point command point ones. So we have automated repair system, where you pick a vehicle or a battlesuit, and that model immediately regains D3 loss wounds. That costs 2 command points. Any vehicle, any battlesuit, D3 loss wounds. You do it on Storm Surge, Riptide, you could do it on your commander if he's got a battlesuit. Neuro Web System Jammer, 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the start of your enemy shooting phase and pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of a battlesuit commander from your army, and your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls made for that unit this phase. So they have to be within 18 inches of a battlesuit commander, but and you're picking a enemy unit for 2 command points, but it is -1 to hit for the duration of the phase. And then 2 command points, Positional Relay. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Pick a Cept MB3 Recon drone from your army. One of your Cept units that has been set up in a Manta hold can perform a low altitude drop instead of a Manta strike. Set up the unit wholly within 6 inches of the MB3 Recon drone. You can be as close to the enemy as you like, so long as the MB3 Recon drone is alive and on the table, and so long as you can get wholly within 6 inches of it. The MB3 Recon drone could be an assault could be getting punched by something and survive somehow, and you can drop down really close to it. That would be awesome if the Tau could punch their way out of a paper bag and charge after that, but they can't. Those are all the 2 command point ones. Now we're on to a ton of 1 command point ones. Right, there's a couple of incidental ones in here. Chances to do mortal wounds, these 3 that I'm going to talk about, but they're not great. Failsafe Detonator. Basically, when a battlesuit unit from your army is destroyed in the fight phase, before removing the last model, roll a dice for each unit, friend or foe, within 3 inches of that model, and on a 4-up, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So a chance to do 1 mortal wound back again for 1 command point. Repulsor Impact Field. When a battlesuit unit is charged, roll a dice for each model in the enemy unit within 3 inches of your unit, and on a 6-up, that model suffers a mortal wound. EMP Grenade. Chuck an EMP grenade for a command point at a vehicle, and you can do D3 mortal wounds to that vehicle. So chances to do mortal wounds to vehicles, or when you get charged, or when you blow up a suit. And it's chances to do it. So they're incidental, they're okay, they're not great. We're not going to see them come out of the closet very much. But the rest of them, the rest of the 1 command point ones are quite narrative, quite fluffy. I quite like them. Multi-spectrum sensor suite. Use this stratagem before a battlesuit unit, an entire unit from your army, shoots. Enemy units cannot claim the benefit of cover against shots made by this unit this phase. That's nice. That's a command point. A battlesuit unit shooting at something in a ruin or in a crater and clearing it out and ignoring that +1 that you get for being in cover. That one's pretty brutal. Uplinked Marker Light. Use this stratagem after an enemy unit has been hit by a Marker Light fired from a model from your army. And instead of placing 1 Marker Light counter, place D3 +1 next to that unit instead of only 1. So a real chance to buffing your Marker Light hits here for 1 command point. That one we're going to see come out an awful lot, because let's talk about Marker Lights for a second. Let's interrupt the stratagems to talk about Marker Lights for a second. Right, Marker Lights have not changed, but their order has changed. So if you know the old Marker Light table, you'll know what they do. Basically 3 and 4 have been swapped around. And you really want to get 5 Marker Light hits on a unit, which is add 1 to all hit rolls for Tau Empire models attacking this unit on a 5 Marker Light hits or more. So that uplinked Marker Light network stratagem for 1 command point, getting D3 +1 Marker Light hits on, is really going to help you there. Adding 1 to all hit rolls, and of course if you get 1 hit with 1 Marker Light, you're re-rolling hit rolls of 1. So not only are you hitting on 1 better, you're re-rolling hit rolls of 1 if you get 5 or more Marker Light hits. So uplinked Marker Light stratagem 1 command point is good. The 2 allows you to fire Seeker missiles. 3, the target unit doesn't gain the benefit of being in cover. And 4, Tau Empire models attacking do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons or advancing and firing assault weapons. So it was the other way around. You did that moving and firing heavy weapons and advancing on a 3, but now it's on a 4. So on a 1, you're rerolling hit rolls of 1. On a 3, you're ignoring any cover. And on a 5, 6, on a 5 or more, you're adding 1 to all hit rolls. That's what Tau marker lights do. If you've got a marker light and a gun, you can only fire the marker light. Cannot fire any other weapons this phase unless you're a vehicle. That's the same as it was before. You only need to hit with marker lights as well. So Pathfinders, firing off all their marker lights, just need to hit. Back to these 1-point stratagems. Branched Nova Charge. Use this stratagem when you choose a Riptide. When you overcharge a Riptide, you may choose 2 effects from those listed rather than just 1. Support turret replacement. I quite like this one. Basically, when you lose one of your support turrets from your strike team or a breach team, when one of them's been destroyed, you can just set up another one, so long as it's within unit coherency. I like that idea. So you've had a unit, it's been shot at, the support turret's gone, they're fallen back, and suddenly another one gets dropped from the Manta craft up ahead, and you got your support turret back. Doesn't cost any points to put it there, just 1 command point. You don't have to pay the points for reserving. It's not a reserve point thing. Point defense targeting relay. Use this stratagem when an enemy unit declares a charge against a vehicle, and then the vehicle can overwatch on a 5-up rather than a 6-up. Breach and clear, 1 command point. Before a breacher team from your army shoots at an enemy unit that's receiving the benefit of cover, the breacher team rerolls all failed wound rolls against enemy units until the end of the phase. The enemy unit will still get the benefit of being in cover, but you're rerolling all failed wound rolls against them. So that's quite good. Recon Sweep. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select a Pathfinder team from your army. That unit can immediately move 2d6 but cannot shoot or charge this turn. So you've moved in the movement phase with your Tau Pathfinders, for example. And then in the start of your shooting phase, say you've moved and advanced them in your movement phase because there's something really, really nasty and big coming towards them. So they've already gone quite a long way. And then in the shooting phase, they immediately move a further 2d6. It really helps your Pathfinder teams get out of dodge if they want to. Stimulant Injector. Use this stratagem at the start of any turn. Choose a battlesuit model from your army with a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. This is your Riptides or your Storm Surges. And until the end of this turn, use the top roll of the model's damage table regardless of how many wounds it has left. And this immediately ends if the model is reduced to 0 wounds. So how many times you've been stood there with your Storm Surge and it's down to 2 or 3 or 4 wounds, or your Riptide and it can't do anything because it's really, really injured and it can't hit a barn door? Well, spend a command point and they can use the top bracket as though they were uninjured as they get flooded with chems and stims. That's the Tau stratagems. A good old chocolate box for Tau commanders there. I think the ones that we're going to see again and again are automated repair systems. It costs 2 command points, but healing D3 wounds on a model, we're going to see that. We're going to see stimulant injectors on Storm Surges on the big guns, using their top profile despite the fact we're being injured. Tau players are going to use uplinked marker light stratagem for 1 command point all the time. Place D3 plus 1 marker light counters instead of only 1 after you hit something. And we're also going to see multi-spectrum sensor suite, the battle suits ignoring cover when they shoot something. We're going to see that one again and again. Warlord traits, let's run through them. So the Tau basically ignores wounds on a 5-up whenever they get a wound. Your Warlord, these are Warlord traits. Valora, Academic Luminary. If your Warlord has the Master of War, Volley of Fire, or Failure is not an option ability, the range of that ability is increased to 9 inches. In addition, if your army is battle-forged, you receive 1 additional command point. Delath, Gunship Diplomat. While within 12 inches of your Warlord, friendly Kroot and Vespid units gain For the Greater Good ability. So Kroot being able to overwatch, or being able to overlapping fire, that's nice. Beacon of Honor, Saxia. Friendly Saxia units within 6 inches of this model reduce the number of models that flee as a result of a failed morale test by 1. Borcan, for each hit roll of a 6 made for your Warlord, add 1 to the wound roll for that attack. And then Farsight Enclaves. Your Warlord can perform a heroic intervention if they're within 6 inches of any enemy units after your enemy has completed all their charge moves. Your Warlord can move up to 6 inches when performing a heroic intervention, so long as they end the move closer to the nearest enemy model. In addition, if your Warlord was charged, or performed a heroic intervention, then until the end of your turn, you can reroll all failed hit rolls made for them. And yes, Commander Farsight has Hero of the Enclaves. So heroic intervention 6 inches away, and when he charges, or when he gets charged, he can reroll all failed hit rolls. And let's not forget, Commander Farsight is a dude in close combat. Apart from Minushi, he's the only Tau commander that hits on a 2-up in close combat, and the Dawnblade is a strength +3, so this guy hits on a 2, and he's strength 8, -4 AP, D3 damage each. And yeah, he's re-rolling all wound rolls, was it? Hit rolls, failed hit rolls. He can damage people when he punches them. The other 6 Warlord traits. So Cept Warlord traits, of course, you can only give them if your Warlord is from the relevant Cept. The other Warlord traits you can pick. So Precision of the Hunter, reroll wound rolls of 1 made for your Warlord against enemy vehicles or monsters. 2, through Unity Devastation. In each of your shooting phases, you can pick an enemy unit that's visible to your Warlord until the end of the phase. Each time you make a wound roll of 6 against that unit, made for an attack by a friendly Cept unit within 6 inches of the Warlord, the armor penetration characteristic of that attack is improved by 1, e.g. AP 0 becomes AP -1. So a 6-inch bubble to increase the AP by -1. 3, a ghost walks among us. When your Warlord advances, add 6 inches to their move characteristic for that movement phase instead of rolling a dice. 4, through boldness, victory. If your Warlord is within 12 inches of an enemy unit at the start of your shooting phase, you can re-roll failed hit rolls made for your Warlord until the end of the phase. That would be quite good actually on a crisis suit guy jumping down with Manta Strike. He'll be 9 inches away, and this is if your Warlord is within 12 inches, he can re-roll failed hit rolls. So yeah, that would be good on a jumpy dude. Exemplar of the Chaon, you can re-roll failed hit rolls for your Warlord as long as they have not moved. If they have moved for any reason, they lose this trait until the start of your next turn, so that's good too. Exemplar of Montcar, your Warlord can advance and still shoot as though they hadn't advanced this turn. So nothing here about getting command points back again. We like getting our command points back again. To get your command point back again, you need the Pure Tide Engram Neuro Chip, which is the relic that everyone is going to take. So once per battle, you can re-roll a single hit, wound, or damage roll made for the bearer with a Pure Tide Engram chip. But in addition, if your army is battle-forged and the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you or your opponent uses a stratagem, and on a 6+, you gain a command point. So you or your opponent on a 6-up, you get a command point. So the relic gives you your free command points, not the Warlord traits. The Anagha Gauntlet is back again in the relics, and you can only make 1 single attack like you used to with the Anagha Gauntlet, but it's strength 10, -4 AP, D6 damage, so it's a bit mean. We've also got this superior Supernova Launcher, and you give the Supernova Launcher to a model with an air-bursting fragmentation projector. And it's 18-inch range, assault D6, strength 6, -2 AP, 2 damage. And this weapon can target units that are not visible to the bearer. So the Supernova Launcher is quite good. Multi-sensory discouragement array. A discouragement array. Enemy units within 6 inches of the bearer subtract 1 from their leadership characteristics. These are all relics, by the way. Solid image projection unit. An ethereal with hover drone only. Once per phase, when an enemy unit declares the bearer as the target of the charge, you may move the bearer 3 inches away before the charge roll is made. Seismic Destabilizer. At the start of each shooting phase, you may pick an enemy infantry unit claiming the benefit of cover or a building. If you pick an infantry unit, roll a dice for each model in the unit, and on a 6-up, that unit suffers a mortal wound. So any enemy units, infantry units, in cover. This could be significant because infantry likes sticking to cover, and it happens every turn at the start of every single one of your shooting phases. So you've got some scouts in some ruins over there, or some Eldar Rangers in a crater over there, and roll a bunch of dice. Only on a 6 does it do mortal wounds, but this is infantry, mind, and most infantry only have 1 wound. If you're playing on a board that doesn't have much cover on it at all, 1, you're doing it wrong, and 2, it's not going to really have much effect. But I quite like that one. If you pick a building, and remember you can do it at the start of each of your shooting phase, that building suffers D3 mortal wounds. So if your enemy is taking fortifications, every turn in your shooting phase, D3 mortal wounds, and then another D3 mortal wounds. Seismic Destabilizer is, I think it's an outlier. It's going to be one of these that's going to be very interesting when the people take it, how they're going to deploy it, how effective that one will be. Mind you, I say when people take it, everyone's going to take the Pure Tide Engram Neuro chip for getting command points back on a 6-up. And then that's it for the general relics. The other 6 relics, because there's only 12 here, the other 6 relics are specific to the Cepts. So the Tau Cept relic, you can only give to a battle suit. This model may immediately move up to 6 inches after attacking in the shooting phase. So these guys are hitting on a 5-up in Overwatch. They're shooting, and they can move 6 inches after attacking in the shooting phase. A bit of fire and fading there going on. I quite like that one. I think we're going to see that one too. The Virile, I apologize, I'm killing these names. But basically, these guys get a flamer, and it does 2 damage instead of 1. Then we've got the Dynamic Mirror Field for the Daleth Cept, and your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target the bearer only. Bear in mind you put this on a character, and the characters aren't getting shot at for most of the battle because they're not the closest unit unless they're getting sniped. And if they are getting sniped, it's -1 hit rolls to hit rolls that target that bearer. There's a Saxia Cept. Enemy units that choose the bearer's unit as the target of a charge must subtract 2 from the charge distance. Borkan Cept is a nasty plasma rifle, and Farsight Enclaves get some nice fusion blasters, fusion blades. So a model with at least 2 fusion blasters only gets this. So you've got a suit, it's got 2 fusion blasters, and the fusion blades replace 2 of the model's fusion blasters and has the following profile. Fusion blades ranged are 18-inch range, assault 2, strength 8, -4, d6 damage. Basically, it keeps the fusion blaster profile when it's shooting at 18-inch range, but you can also use them in close combat. Strength 8, -4, d6 damage in close combat as well. But it can only make 2 and only 2 attacks with its Cept weapon because it has 2 fusion blades. So that one's very fluffy, very narrative. I like it. So that's the relics. You're taking the engram chip. Everyone knows you're taking the engram chip. Everyone will be taking the engram chip. Maybe that one for the Cept guy that can move and shoot and then move again. Maybe that one will pop up. But I would like to see the Seismic Destabilizer on the battle grid, targeting any infantry units in cover and on 6s doing mortal wounds to them every single shooting phase. Let's have a look at some of these points values. Nearly all of them have gone down, by the way. Or rather, nearly all the ones that have moved have gone down. There's a couple that have gone up. Well, let's talk about the ones that have gone up in points first. Unvar's gone up by 20 points and gun drones have gone up by 4 points. And when you look at the support systems such as the advanced targeting systems, drone controllers, early warning overrides, those sorts of things, about half of them have changed. And beforehand they were split up into multi-tracker for Ghost Kill and Storm Surge, multi-tracker or all other units. Well, now it's, for example, it's split up in slightly different ways. So now a multi-tracker is just 10 points and there isn't any changes for all other units. But previously, early warning override was 8 points, but now early warning override and Ghost Kill, Riptide and Storm Surge is 10 points and early warning override for all other models is 5 points. What I'm saying is the support systems have changed a bit. So when you get your codex, have a look at it. There isn't anything massively that has changed here. Just some are going to go up on a couple of models by a couple of points, some are going to go down by a couple of points on a couple of models. It isn't going to change your army that much, so don't freak out about the support system stuff. It'll all balance out in the wash. Then we go on to the units. So Breacher teams gone down a point, Troop Carnivores down a point, and Strike teams down a point. So your standard troops are all down by 1 point. They're all a little bit cheaper. Broadside, XV88 broadside battlesuits down 20 points. 20 points is quite significant. Add that to the fact that the heavy rail rifle, which was 63 points, has gone down 28 points all the way to 35. XV88s are more than 50 points cheaper with a heavy rail rifle than what they were before. Add on the fact that smart missile systems have gone down from 20 points to 15 points as well, then XV88 broadside battlesuits are back with a bang, over 60 points cheaper than what you were taking before when you add all the guns together. Devilfish down 21. Riptide battlesuits are down 24 points. And if you want to load them up with an ion accelerator, that's 42 points cheaper. So a Riptide with an ion accelerator is 64 points cheaper than it was, which is mean. The heavy burst cannon variant is 20 points cheaper as well, so Riptide's got a buff, particularly when you factor in the changes to its main gun. So let's just talk about the Riptide for a second, jump into the suit section, because the heavy burst cannon used to be heavy 8, and now it's just a heavy 12. Same weapon profile for strength 6, -1 AP, 2 damage, but heavy 12. And when you overcharge it, it goes to heavy 18. And then the ion accelerator cannon used to be heavy 3 and heavy D6, depending if you overcharged or not. Now it's just heavy D6. For standard and overcharge, it's heavy D6. So you could only get 1 shot rather than D6 shots. But when you overcharge it, it becomes a flat 6 shots, not a heavy D6. So overcharge your ion cannon 6 shots. And also when it's overcharged, it's now strength 9 -3 damage instead of strength 8. I think every Tau commander will be pleased by that, pleased that they can take their Riptides, which are much cheaper and also much more effective, because I've gone up against Tau a couple of times in 8th edition. Riptides used to be fearful, or used to be scared of them, but now you are going to be scared of them, because 18 shots getting chucked out from a heavy burst cannon, or a flat 6 shots at strength 9 -3 AP, 3 damage is mean. Still suffer a mortal wound when you overcharge, but you can overcharge your ion accelerator now and get that 6 shots, and do it at strength 8 -3 AP, D3 damage, and instead of, because when you roll 1s you're going to inflict more mortal wounds on yourself, so don't do that. Just fire the big gun 6 times, or the Gatling gun 16 times. I like it. Okay, Hammerhead gunships down 17 points, Sky Ray gunship down 19 points, Devilfish is down 21 points, I think I mentioned that. An Unshi has gone down 8 points. The tactical support turret that you bring with your strike squads and your breacher squads that you used to pay 20 points for, it's free. You get it free. You can just take it. So you take a 5-man or a 10-man Pathfinder team or breacher team, and you can choose to bring a tactical support turret for free, which is quite good. It'll cost, depending on what weapons you put on them, because then you have to pay for the smart missile system or the other thing it can do. But it used to be 20 points just to bring that turret. Shield drones down 2, sniper drones down 7. And then some of the weapons: air bursting fragmentation projector down 2, burst cannons down 2, fusion colliders down 9, heavy burst cannons down 20. I think I mentioned that one. Did I mention the cluster rocket system on the Storm Surge? It was 61 points, it's down to 36 points, so that's nearly half price for the cluster rocket system. Ion cannons down 20, rail rifles down 5. So add on the fact that sniper drones are down 7 and rail rifles are down 5. That makes them a lot cheaper. Supremacy railgun down 19 points. So apart from a couple of tweaks to the support system and Unbar going up a couple of points, everything that I'm looking at here has gone down. Not a huge amount of drops across the board. Basically the stuff that I haven't mentioned stays the same. So I'm thinking perhaps 20-25%, probably 20% of Tau gear has gone down in points. And when you add the models and the war gear together, you're definitely going to be getting 1 or 2 more units in your army, 1 more unit at 1500 points, 2 more units in your army at 2000 points. But there's been some generous reductions when you add the war gear together here. So take a solid look at the Tau Empire points values when you start adding up your army again. But as I say, 75%, 80% of the stuff is staying the same. But then when you're getting, I don't know, I mean, the recruits are all the same, for example. The battle suits, broadside battle suits are down 20, but normal battle suits cost the same points. However, if you put on different weapons, then they might have gone down a few points here, a few points there, like Fusion Blast. Fusion Collider's down 9 points, for example. Rail Rifle's down 5 points. So Crisis Battlesuit stays the same, but Rail Rifles on them, or Smart Missile System, sorry, on them, down 5 points. It's going to start adding up here or there when you mix and match the two together. But they've been generous in places, and some of the stuff has stayed the same points. Let's have a look at the data sheets. You have Commander Shadow Sun, Commander Farsight, a Commander in XV8 Crisis Battlesuit, a Commander in XV85 Enforcer Battlesuit, Commander in a Cold Star Battlesuit, Unvar, Anunshi, and Ethereals, Cadre, Fireblade, Dark Strider, and Long Strike is a HQ. And these are all the HQs you can pick for the Tau. Most of these guys can take drones, and when you set them up with the drones, and then the drones are treated as a separate unit for all intents and purposes from that point onwards, so long as they're within 3 inches of one of your commanders. If your commander takes a wound, then you can pass it on to the drone as a mortal wound instead. I think that's the same from the FAQ. But basically, if you set up Commander Shadow Sun and a couple of drones with her, she's never going to get targeted anyway because there's a separate unit right in front of her. She's lost her Camouflage Fields ability. She's lost her Infiltrator ability. Sorry, she hasn't lost the Camouflage Fields or Infiltrator ability. There's a line annoyingly drawn right through the middle of her data sheet, which got me confused. I was reading the drone stuff, not her stuff. So she's still got the Stalker Battlesuit with a 5-up invulnerable save. Still -1 to hit her, but there's going to be drones in front of her all the time. She can still deploy as an infiltrator on the battlefield, and yeah, she's good. Farsight is still a dude, Commanders are still a dude. The Cold Star Battlesuit still moves 20, and when he advances he still goes the full 20, so he's pretty good for nipping around all over the place. And the Ethereals still do what they do, so they have invocation of the elements, and in your movement phase you may invoke one of the elemental powers below and give it out to any Tau Empire infantry and battlesuit units within 6 inches. And the buffs that they provide to infantry and battlesuit units within 6 inches are the same. So subtract 1 for any morale tests for effective units, or Storm of Fire reroll hit rolls of 1, or whenever you lose a wound, roll a dice, and on a 6 you don't lose a wound, or you can re-roll the dice for affected units when they advance. They've still got Failure is not an option. They can use the Tau's leader, the Ethereal's leadership rather than their own, and the leadership is still 9. The Cadre, Fireblade, and Dark Strider still do what they do, and then Longstrike is still a dude. Commander Longstrike in his tank. Quick mention of Seeker Missiles. Previously, Seeker Missiles just did a mortal wound, but now they have a profile. They are 72-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, -2 AP, and D6 damage. And each Seeker Missile can only be used once per battle. Hits on a 6, regardless of the firing model's ballistic skill or any modifiers. So the best way to fire Seeker Missiles is get those marker-like hits in there, and suddenly they're strength 8, -2 AP, D6 damage, instead of just doing 1 mortal wound, because Seeker Missiles were a bit pants in the index. But now having the ability, basically they've got the same stat line as a missile launcher that Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines have, only much, much further. Instead of 48-inch range, they go 72-inch range. So yeah, Seeker Missiles are back. Long Strike still hits on a 2. He's still a tank ace. You can add 1 to wound rolls for Long Strike's gunship when he shoots a vehicle or monster. He's still a hover tank. He's got a new rule though, called XV02 Battlesuit. Long Strike's gunship treats the number of Markerlight counters on an enemy unit affected by Markerlights as being 1 higher. That's a nice little nugget there. So Long Strike is still an auto-include for anyone who's got Tau, because he's a tank that hits on a 2, Markerlights are 1 higher, and having a big nasty strength 10, -4 AP, D6 damage railgun is mean. Railguns the same profile, ion cannons the same profile, burst cannons are the same profile. Then in the troops we have a Breacher Team, Strike Team and Kroot Carnivores. Kroot are still Kroot, they're unchanged, -1 point, still do what they do. Breacher Teams and Strike Teams, well, I mentioned that the support thingy bob is now free. The support turret, and they still do what they do. They still have bonding rituals, like the crisis suits. Basically, if you roll a morale of 6 or more, then you automatically pass your morale. They can still take Guardian drones with a Guardian field to give them a 6-up invulnerable save if they want to. But that's a 5-up invulnerable save from a Guardian drone for a Breacher Team, a 6-up invulnerable save for a Strike Team within 3 inches of... well, when they have a Guardian field, a Guardian drone with them. And the weapons these units carry are the same. So the Breacher Team still has the Pulse Blaster, which does the same thing. It gets meaner the closer you are. So if you're within 5 inches, that's strength 6 -2 AP, 1 damage. And then 10 inches becomes strength 5 -1, 15 inches strength 4. And Strike Teams still have the guns that they have. Onto the elite slot, we have Kroot Shapers and Krootox Riders. The Kroot Hounds are a fast attack choice, and they're in the fast attack section, so they're not in the elite section. Kroot Shapers and Kroot Riders are the same. However, Krootox Riders have got 4 wounds instead of 3, which is nice. Toughness 5, 4 wounds. They don't have a save. Well, they have a 6-up save, but having those extra wounds there is quite nice. And strength 7 -1 AP3 D3 gun on the back with a 48-inch range for Kroot Riders. It's nice having that extra wound in there. It's nice. Anyway, the rest of the elites, you have the Stealth Battlesuits, Crisis Bodyguards, Farsight Marksman, Ghost Kill Battlesuit, Riptide Battlesuit. Lots of elites, lots and lots of big guns. We've already mentioned the Riptides because they got mean, their guns got mean, and they got cheaper. Stealth Battlesuits still do what they do. Their rules appear to be unchanged, that you can still infiltrate them in, and they're still -1 to hit with their camouflage beacons at the same points as well. However, burst cannons going down 2 points helps out a little bit there, but the cost of them and fusion blasters are still the same points. So stealth battlesuits still doing the same, crisis battlesuits still doing the same. However, for every 3 models in the unit, this is crisis battlesuit units, 1 model may take an XV802 crisis iridium battlesuit, increasing that model's save characteristic by to a 2-up instead of a 3-up. So 1 out of 3, for every 3 models, if you bring 6 in the units, 2 of them can have a 2-up save. You get a Crisis Iridium Battlesuit in there for free. No points on that. Crisis Bodyguards still do the same. Crisis Bodyguard units, again, they can take an Iridium Battlesuit, increasing the model save characteristics to a 2-up for free. Then you have the Farsight Marksman. He's the guy that helps sniper drone shoot. And then we have the XV95 Ghost Kill Battlesuit. Now this guy costs the same points, but the burst cannon and the fusion collider have gone down a bit, so you'll probably get him for 10 points cheaper. And he's basically the same, but the Ghost Kill Electro Warfare Suite. So previously, whenever you shot this guy from more than 12 inches away, it's -1 to hit. Now that's more than 6 inches away, it's -1 to hit. So he's a bit more stealthy. His stealth tech got dialed up there, 6 inches instead of 12. Add that to his stealth field, so models shooting at a stealth drone or a ghost kill battlesuit within 3 inches of any stealth drone must subtract 1 from their hit rolls, and this is cumulative with a ghost kill electro warfare suite ability. Basically, so long as you're 6 inches away from this guy and he's got a couple of drones with him, you're always -2 to hit him, so shoot the drones first. In the far slot we have Pathfinders, Piranhas, tactical drones are in the far slot, Sting Winds, Vespids, Kroot Hounds. These are all the guys in the fast slot. They appear to be unchanged as far as I can see. Then in the heavy slot, XV88 broadside battlesuits, hammerhead gunships, skyray gunships, sniper drones. They've got all the guns. After all, Tau love their guns. Broadside battlesuits, as mentioned, have got a lot cheaper. So we're going to see them again. Not that we really saw them disappear from narrative lists, but they've had a bit of a buff. We're going to see Skyray gunships back in as well, because Seeker missiles can now actually damage something. Add to that, they've given the Skyray gunship an ability called Velocity Tracker. Add 1 to hit rolls for this model when it shoots at units that can fly instead of hitting ground targets. I mean, it's got a ballistic skill of 3 up when it's shooting stuff on the ground. So when it's shooting stuff in the air, it will be -1 to hit because they'll be hard to hit, and then +1 to hit with Velocity Tracker. And then slamming 6 Seeker missiles into it, particularly if it's hit it with a marker light as well. Rerolling hit rolls 1, hitting 6 missiles into it, strength 8, -2 AP, D6 damage each. A Skyray gunship should be able to delete 1 flyer in 1 turn without breaking sweat. The flyers still do what the flyers do. The strike fighter still shoots badly, and the Sun Shark bomber still drops bombs as it flies over units. That's if it flies over a unit of infantry, it's hitting on a 4 up and causing mortal wounds, and a 5 up if it's not infantry, and you roll for every model in the unit. Still not very good. They've both gone down 10 points, which is nice. And then we have the Tide Wall, Shield Lines, Drone Port, Gun Rig, and at the back, the Lord of War, the Storm Surge. Now, the Storm Surge is still the same points, but its cluster rocket system has gone down 36 points, so it's not the same points. Still hits on a 5 up so long as you get it below 10 wounds, and if you get it to 1 to 5 wounds, it's still only hitting on a 6 up when it's shooting stuff. So it sounds like it sucks still. But with Stimulant Injector, that stratagem, you're going to be using its highest profile regardless of how many wounds it has remaining. Oh, that's a note as well. Stimulant Injector used to be a support system, but it's not anymore. It's just that stratagem that I mentioned. So Storm Surges, with the cluster rocket system going down, and with the stratagem, the Stimulant Injector stratagem, might be making a comeback. I quite like them. They are tough to take out, 20 wounds, toughness 7. Takes a lot of gun to take one of these guys out. Still got stabilizing anchors. It's still a walking battleship, so it can move and fire heavy weapons without any negatives. But you're never going to move it. You're going to use its stabilizing anchors, lock it into place so it doesn't move, and then it adds 1 to all its hit rolls. As for the big guns, well, the Pulse Blast Cannon is the same profile, but the Pulse Driver Cannon, which was heavy D3, is now heavy D6, which, yeah, that's mean. At strength 10, -3 AP, D6 damage, D6 shots can be mean, so long as you don't roll the 1. Anyway, I think that's about it for my Codex Tau review. I've been going on long enough now. It's by no means comprehensive. I'm sure there's a few changes in there that I've missed. But overall, we've got some points reductions and some interesting stratagems and some interesting relics. Tau will still do what they do. With this codex, they'll be able to do it a bit more effectively, but no great changes to the Tau Empire at this stage. Some great changes to their narrative, but no great changes to how they perform on the battlefield, except that they'll be able to perform it a bit more efficiently, which is rather Tau. So personally, it's just my personal opinion, I think it's a good codex. I don't think it's a great codex. On a scale of AdMech to Imperial Guard, this is AdMech. But I'm sure there's a few Tau commanders out there who completely disagree with me and will be able to make this codex sing. I think Tau battlesuits were mean when the index dropped, and they are still mean. I think battlesuits are the way to go. Riptides are obviously going to be making a comeback along with XV88s. So I think suiting up, bringing less of the blob, less of the horde, and more of the jumpy dudes dropping around all over the place is probably the way to go. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I've been going on long enough. Thank you for listening. Thanks for Games Workshop for sending it down to me, and thank you to all my patrons for supporting me. I'll catch you in the Patreon chat rooms to discuss about this in a bit more detail, I'm sure. Anyway, happy wargaming.